Hey everybody, I am super excited right now where we are with this pose capture component or set of components because there's going to be a few different types of things we're pose capturing. Let me show you where we are by loading up the demo we had last step. So npm run serve, and I found this image of this lady online, and I am super happy with this because look at her legs. You can't really see them underneath that long dress she has on. But if we look at the points that were captured along with this pose, we start with her hand up at top right here. So you can see that. You can see this hand coming down to her face. And then we can see, actually, it did a great job estimating where her legs are, I feel like. So this is pretty cool. Now, where I want to go next with this is I want to take our video player that we built, and I want to use that video player to do real-time pose detection. So you can see all those points, all these points that we're looking at, update in real time, playing along with the video. So that's what we're up to next. So where do we want to start? Well, I do hope you like object-oriented programming because we're going to keep extending stuff here. We started with a bass player, and then on top of that, we extended the bass player to create our video element component so we can play back video. We're going to extend this even further and add a video pose element. So I'm going to drop this in right now. One of the important things in this new class we're adding here that extends video element, it adds some stuff, but one of the important things we're adding right here is we're adding new TypeScript definitions. So basically we're describing a pose. So we want, out of this class, we want to get some keyframes, and in each of these keyframes, we want to have some points. So our points are being recorded, and our position, our X, Y, and Z, these are all part of the points. And again, these are just TypeScript definitions, so we can kind of formalize this. It's not really adding anything in terms of JavaScript, but it's nice to be able to be a little organized. But scrolling down, there's not too much we're adding here. We're adding one more attribute we're observing, which is minimum confidence. Like, I want to be able to tell Tensorflow, this component, and say, hey, are you sure you're 96% confident that that elbow is reported where you think it is? If you're not, let's throw it out. So that's where this attribute is coming in. And continuing down, we're going to add some recording. We're actually going to be able to record the key points, save them out to a JSON file, and also record audio as these points are recording, so we can stick that audio blob into the JSON file and play back the pose as an animation along with the audio. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is a normal web component that we could use. So we're defining that as a custom element. This isn't where we stop extending. We're gonna make some more components, the final end components for your hands, for your face, for your body. They're gonna extend this component, and each of them is gonna call on pose frame. And the other thing, we have a new thing here. We have a keyframe event. The bulk of what this function does is it takes all those keyframes and creates keyframe events, dispatches them out for, whoever wants to listen into this component we're building and do whatever they need to do with these pose positions. The part that's interesting here, though, is that this is a subclass event. I'm going to drop this new keyframe event class right in here. And like I said, it subclasses events. We're extending event and creating something bigger than the event, or more specialized to our use case. So because this is always going to be a keyframe event, I can say, well, it's always going to have the same event type, which means anytime I add an event listener, it's going to be pose keyframe that you add the event listener for. That's the type. And that's what I pass into the constructor. This keyframe event also allows us to pass in the pose type. So what's your pose type? Are you doing the face? Are you doing hands? Are you doing body? So that's what we're recording here. It's helpful to have this information come out of the event, just to tell you where you got it from. And then the keyframes, we're just setting the keyframes here. So either one of these properties, you can listen for this event and you can say, hey, what is your pose type? .pose type. What is your keyframes? .keyframes. So you can query either one of those. And the other nice thing about extending event like this is we can do some custom functions like get part location. This is a convenience function that I made. So you can say, hey, pass in the name of the part that you want to get, left elbow, right knee, whatever, and pass in the pose index, which person 1, person 2, person 3, TensorFlow can capture multiple people. So which person do you want to get the location of? And so this convenience method just gives you that. So what specific position do you want to get? Well, this event can tell you, I want to get my left knee. Well, that's at this XY position. So this is a nice convenience method. Let's go back to our pose detection file right here. Remember, this interfaced with the pose detection TensorFlow model, and it allowed us to load the model. And then the process frame function right here, it took an HTML image element and it gave us back a bunch of stuff. I want to be a little more formalized than this and not just give back whatever junk that TensorFlow gives back, because different models will give you back different stuff. So I want to formalize this, use this point interface, use this keyframe interface, and just make this object that we're getting back a lot more organized, a lot more predictable. So as we replace this, we've added a little bit more code. We have changed what we're passing in as the source. So instead of the HTML image element, we're taking this video pose base that we added. And the video pose base has a video element property on it. And the video element is just the HTML video tag, right? So this is what's playing back the video. And this provides us with a good source to process this frame, for TensorFlow to process this frame. So let's import video pose base. And then also we can import our keyframe object. Now these last two items right here, pose and key point, these are actually coming from TensorFlow. Luckily, we don't have the baggage of dealing with CommonJS and all that nonsense we dealt with before just to import these things. They can come right from the TensorFlow package, so we're all good there. So I think this is it for getting the poses from the video as we want to do. Now, as I mentioned before, we're not stopping there. We're gonna keep going with our object-oriented hierarchy here. So we started with base player, we extended that to our video player element, we extended that to our video pose element. We're gonna extend that again to our final component, our pose detection component. This is pose detection video.ts. Now there's not too much going on here. We're specifically loading the TensorFlow pose detection file we just have right here. This one where we can do load and process frame. But that's pretty much it. You see I listed all these parts out here. It's nice knowing with this component what we can listen for. We can listen for the nose, we can listen for the left eye, the right eye, all this stuff. Some of the models I actually can get this programmatically, but here I had to type everything out, kind of a drag. But really the major piece of functionality that we're adding here is pose detection frame. So something in video pose element calls pose detection frame, and we process the frame, and then we call back to video pose element with the results. And that's pretty much it. But of course, we're defining the element as pose detection video as well. So on this index.html file, I want to throw away all this stuff. We'll start with getting rid of this image that I found online. We don't need her anymore. So I'm going to revert this file back to how Lit had it originally as part of its template. So here we go. We're back to a link to component demo, except I don't want this to be a link to index.html. I want it to be a link to one of several demo pages we're going to have. So this one is going to be pose detection video.html. And we'll just do a quick name, pose detection demo. And then the dev folder is where all these demo files live. So let's get rid of our index. And I'm going to add that pose detection video.html. So right at the top here, you can see we're importing pose detection. We're importing those playback controls. That's the component itself, the pose detection component, and the playback controls that we're going to add into this slot. But really, pose detection video is the component that's going to capture those poses. We had a camera demo before. We're going to leave that in. And then the last thing we added is this event listener for the pose keyframe. So we're just going to console log whatever we get, whatever TensorFlow gives us as we process this video and look for key points. So let's just do a quick build with TypeScript, and then we can add on to our demo. So let's do npm run serve and see if these demos that we just added actually work. We're gonna click through our link right here and get to our demo page. Now remember, we're just console logging our keyframes, so without the console open, we actually won't see anything interesting. So pop open that console, we're gonna play it back and see what happens. Look at all these keyframe events. This is awesome. So I'm gonna pop one of these open. And look at this. We have pose type. It's coming from the pose detection model. And then keyframes. Because we're just capturing one person at a time, that's all that's appearing in this sample video we have. You can see we only have one pose captured, but we're getting the aspect ratio of the video. We're getting all of these points as well. So we got the nose, we got left ear. So let's see where this left ear is. Here it is, X, Y, and Z positions. And then the score, it's 99.99% confident that the left ear is where it says it is. So that's a good sign. So this is great. We just added pose detection though, so there are 3 other models to add. So let's get cracking on that. I'm gonna do it really quickly and test it out. We're not gonna take too much time on this. So to start, I'm gonna jump into our Tensorflow folder, copy all those things in, and that is body pics, face landmark, hand pose. They're not gonna be that much different from what we have in pose detection. We load our model, we process the frame, we send back some keyframes. Hand pose, for example, same thing. We're loading our model, we're processing these keyframes. There is a little bit of an interesting thing here in the hand model. I commented this out because we're not passing back the key points 3D. These are full XYZ positions in 3D space of these key points. It does that. However, so I found out that these key points 3D, they're in meters, and meters don't really help me to overlay in pixels over my video. So I'm saving this one for the future. I'm looking forward to trying these out. But for now, I'm just getting the XY position of each part of your hand and using that. Face landmarks is kind of also interesting because there are so many points it captures all over your face. I'm gonna jump over to the video pose element. We have these TypeScript definitions here on each point. Normally we're capturing XYZ as an array in our position right here, but for face landmarks, there's so many points. There's a point right here, there's a point right here, there's a point right here. What would you label them? It doesn't really matter. So we're just going to capture these as a multi-dimensional array as positions. So that's the only real difference with face landmarks. But all in all, it's just going to be normalized to keyframe objects that we're going to dispatch right out of our component. And we do need one last thing, but now that we have all these solutions right here, we need the components to back them up. So let's add those in. Just like we have this pose detection video here, we're gonna add all of these other 3 video solutions here. We have body pics, we have face landmark, and hand pose. And they just go right alongside. And we can actually, I think we're ready to do an npm run build now, to build these all up in TypeScript. I think our code is done, but if you look at our file structure, there's a bunch of stuff that, do we want to check it in? Don't we? We actually don't want to check these in. These are being transpiled to the root of our project again. We want to publish these as part of our module, but not check them in. So let's add these to our git ignore. We'll start with our Tensorflow folder and git ignore all of that. And then we have body pics, face landmark, and hand pose, our pose detection video, our video pose element, and finally our keyframe event. So I think that's everything. Once I save this, yep, everything looks good. So I guess now we just need some demo pages for the rest of these components. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this index.html a little more fancy. We're gonna have some style to separate all these paragraph tags out. We're gonna have all of our demos here: hand pose, face landmark, body pics, pose detection. We're also adding the video pose element and the video element. These aren't very interesting, but it's nice to be able to, when you're trying to do development on this stuff, it's nice to demo these things and fix any bugs you want. So it's nice to have a page to serve this up. But all of these, they point into the dev folder, into each of these individual HTML files. So let's add those, paste those right in. Each of these pages, they're just like the pose detection demo we added. Of course, we're using a different import, we're using a different component tag, but everything is the same. Let's do the face landmark, try it out just to make sure it works. Things are a little prettier. We have a nice little list looking thing right here with each of our demos nicely spaced with our CSS. It's not too important, but it's nice to have something that's easy to use. Let's go to our face landmark demo. Take a look at that, make sure it works. Take a look at each of our keyframe events. We can see, it's coming from the face landmark solution. And in our keyframes, we have a whole lot of points. So we have positions of the silhouette. This is like the outline of the face right here. So we have all 4 TensorFlow models right in our browser right now, all working, all firing off events. We're console logging though. It doesn't do it justice. I want to see all of these things working as visualizations overlaid over the video that we're playing back. That's how we'll really know things are lining up and working correctly. I can't just read some points and translate them and know it's working. I need to see this. So this is what we're gonna see in the next step. So come on back. We'll have it all working.